Hey guys, Poro here with another Worlds 2025 daily recap, this time for day 2 of Swiss Stage, where we'll see the 1-0 and 0-1 matches. It's another long one with 8 best of 1s, and in theory these matches should be more evenly matched than yesterday. We have some fun stuff, including rematches of LTA and LEC finals, MSI grudge matches between CFO T1 and Gen G AL, and some potential upsets with Secret Whales KT and even 100 Thieves Top Esports, although realistically I have zero faith for that second one. Let's get right into the games. VKS vs Fly gave us a rematch of the LTA finals, but we've seen this series twice already and it wasn't close either time. As expected, Fly took control of the game from start to finish with no real pushback. A couple of early mistakes from Desamis and Trimby gave Fly the lead, and they never dropped it as their comp was built perfectly for absorbing pressure. They didn't rush and played the game out slow and controlled until they won through objectives. Whippo was doing his thing on the side lane, definitely had a few slip-ups here and there, but overall executed the pick wall in teamfights that mattered. Bawal was fine, the matchup is difficult and there was realistically nothing he could do to turn it. Miru was struggling to hold his own and Morteus was invisible all game, neither of them played that well. On Fly's side, everyone was fine to good. I liked some of the team fights and baits Busio had, and I thought Inspired and Quad played all the fights super well. Masu made some mistakes at points early and overall didn't need to do anything significant to win, so his score stays unchanged. Overall, just solid team play from Fly as they outclassed VKS in all 5 roles, not too much to comment on for this one. Team Secret Whales vs KT was a match I thought could be close, as I view Secret Whales as a slightly better early game team than KT. We did see this play out somewhat, as Secret Whales were able to find some decent kills early due to occasional ints from Peter and Doctom, and the game was pretty much even heading into Rift Herald spawning. However, Secret Whales decided to take their stand there, and they lost the fight pretty hard. There were some more back and forth fights, but at the end of the day, it felt like the Ornn Caitlyn pairing was inevitable as KT scaled into the win. I thought his toe played very well actually, maybe the best Jarvan game we've seen at Worlds so far. Everyone else on the team struggled, especially Eddie on the Ezreal. He blew his flash trying to go for a kill that he didn't end up getting, and that decision led to him missing out on potential kills and dying a lot later. Classic Eddie stuff, it is what it is. I wasn't very happy with Taki's Bard either, his decisions left much to be desired. BDD gets a 6 mostly because I really like how he played the Herald situation by zoning the Rumble, and even though Perfect and Cuz made some mistakes early, both of them had their share of solid fights later on too. I would say overall the game was pretty mediocre in quality, I didn't walk away impressed with either team. Mkoi vs G2 was a pretty ridiculous game. Mkoi did the exact same thing as yesterday basically. They had effectively a massive stomp in the game. Caps was overplaying his hand in mid a bit and fell behind, Skewmont had a bad death, Hans played level 1 badly so the Caitlyn was ahead despite being paired with a weak laner like Alistar, and Elyoya just had 3 free kills on the Wukong. This should be a very easy game to win, Wukong can get accelerated to Trinity Force and win most fights. However, Mkoi, specifically Elyoya and Alvaro, threw the entire game on the first Drake contest. When Alistar and Wukong started walking in, my jaw was actually on the floor. I cannot believe what I saw. Alistar no level 6 and Wukong no Trinity. They have zero advantage walking in and all they can do is lose a fight and throw their shutdowns away. After that throw happened, Mkoi completely collapsed. Supa and Merwin started playing way worse, and everyone on G2 locked in with the lead and made very few mistakes. Labrov was around the map making stuff happen, Hans was clean pretty much all game after the level 1, Caps was creating a lot of pressure with the LeBlanc despite being behind early, and Skewmont was fine as well. The only player on Mkoi who I think played a fine game was Jojo, although I even debated dropping him to a 4 as well. I don't think Mkoi will lose tomorrow, and they weren't expected to win today or yesterday, but the ways in which they lost have just felt so terrible. Top Esports vs 100 Thieves was the scheduled stomp we were all expecting it to be. Come on 100 Thieves Copers, you knew it deep down in your hearts too. Kanavi was navigating the first 8 minutes perfectly, he had such a huge amount of presence across the map that 100 Thieves were forced to sack both first Drake and Grubs. On the Grub fight, they tried to go for a bot dive to at least get something back, but this decision was pretty net neutral as FBI fell behind as a result. From here, it was simply a top esports takeover. 100 Thieves showed some life in 1 or 2 fights, but the game was never actually in any kind of close position. Hong played extremely well in fights, Cream was gapping people, 369 was doing his job, and Jackie Love still managed to find a way to run it down like twice, so that makes 5 times he's ran it down in an unlosable position this tournament so far. Somebody has to keep track of this, I swear he's literally just ADC'd the Shy. Once again, top esports show their stuff. To be fair, they've only played against 2 Western teams, but both games they were clearly outclassing. The real test will be in the 2-0 match to see if they're actually going to be legit. As for 100 Thieves, I didn't actually think they played too horribly. River and Ayla made some bad mistakes here and there, but overall they played out their comp in a not horrible way and were simply the worst team. CFO vs T1 put me through a roller coaster of emotions starting in draft. T1 went Caitlyn Nico, and Kaiwing doesn't have a support in his pool to lane against that, so the team made the call to draft Draven and go for the Taeyun swap. The strategy actually paid off big time as Doran inted over a cash-in for one caster minion and the game started exploding from there. If I have to describe this game to someone who didn't see it, all you need to know is that T1 had basically zero control over how the game went. CFO made a great play, then CFO made a terrible play, then CFO made a great play, then CFO made a terrible play. Hongq had some insanely creative Ryze ults to get extra advantages in the back end of fights, but he also died multiple times in bad spots randomly. Junja had maybe 7 or 8 game-altering positive plays on the Qiyana and he was hard carrying, but he also had 3 extremely bad ints that could have thrown the lead away. Overall, I decided to give Junja a higher score anyway because at the end of the day, he got CFO their lead and it was up to him to carry it, and he did. Doggo and Kaiwing both played exceptionally clean as well. This is probably the best Alistar game I've seen from Kaiwing in a long time. Big props to them. On T1's side, we had some really bad performances. Doran had a few bad plays that shifted the momentum drastically into CFO's favor, but the real star of the show was Owner on Vi. He seemed completely out of it all game. I truly believe with how much CFO were throwing back that if Owner was playing even a baseline acceptable game, T1 would have brought it back. Super exciting game though. CFO at this point are just absolutely international risers. I watched all of LCP, I promise you they did not play this well domestically. It's just anytime they go to an international tournament, they all start mega smurfing. AL versus Gen G was a super high level game on average across the board. It felt like for the most part, everyone was playing really well and were playing winning League of Legends. If you want to know how the game went, look no further than the objective icons on the left of the screen. Gen G started out with solid control over the game, taking Grubs and Herald while AL were stacking Dragons. Both teams came out with a number of coordinated lane swaps and both sides played the swaps well. Both teams went for some aggressive proactive plays and both teams defended against those plays perfectly. The game took its first big momentum shift at 3rd Drake. Kael hit a nice poppy ult on Canyon to secure the soul point for AL, but Gen G played a great teamfight and jumped out to a 3k gold lead. They transitioned this lead into a free Otacon take before setting up the soul fight, and the drag was actually looking to go Gen G's way until Kael hit an ult to eject Chovy right as Canyon and Duro committed for the fight, and the lack of a mid laner was enough for AL to win the fight and secure the soul. They did another song and dance at Elder, but this was all AL as Canyon started the situation chunked before the objective even spawned. On the one hand, I would say I don't know where this AL came from because they did not look in form in Split 3. On the other hand, they're winning these games the exact way I would expect AL to win them, so it's definitely on brand. Keen and Ruler both played very well all game. Keen had great weak side play and great objective fights, and Ruler made multiple solid decisions to get his leads throughout the match. While you could argue Ruler inted at the soul fight, I think the idea to go in with Duro is fine and Kael just had a really solid reaction speed. Canyon and Duro both looked sloppy at different points in the game, but also incredibly solid for other portions, so I settled for right in the middle for both, and Chovy played well but not well enough to win. Everyone on AL played a solid game with a few mistakes here and there. Realistically, the game was probably lost if not for the heroics from Kael, so I tried not to overreact too hard on the stars for their team with the exception of the Poppy. Nothing else to say for this one, very exciting to watch two teams in form duke it out. BLG versus Fnatic was a depressing watch. If BLG showed up and dominated Fnatic, then fine. If Fnatic came out and really tried to win the game and came up short, fine. But what we got was Fnatic being very uninspiring and passive, and BLG still looking pretty mediocre despite winning hard. Bin completely dumpstered on Oscar against the counterpick, and he ended up taking 2 full turrets on his own in lane phase. The Kate Morg combo is a good idea, but Upset and Mickey did not navigate the early lane well, and Shadow was able to punish them multiple times. Poby and Razork were non-factors, but then again, so were the majority of BLG. Shadow and Bin had large enough leads to kind of walk the game in essentially. Nothing else to comment on this one, both teams need to step it up in the coming days. HLE versus PSG was a pretty underwhelming way to end the day. PSG were able to jump out to an early lead the same way they did against Gen G, as they had 3 pushing lanes and Karsa was able to get some work done on invades. Then HLE tried to contest the first Drake with no setup and got 3 for 0'd, a terrible start. However, the comp from PSG just has no way to navigate mid-game without a massive lead, which PSG did not have. I think HLE actually played somewhat bad, definitely poor for their standards. The issue was just that PSG's comp had no way to walk into an objective setup, and their side lanes weren't ahead enough to do any work prior to the objectives. All HLE had to do was play the game stable and they would naturally win. An Otacon force that led to PSG getting wiped signaled the end of the game, sending PSG down to the 0-2 bracket. With the matches done, we got our draws for the next 3 days. I think for the sake of consistency, I'll only show my predictions for the next day, so that I have predictions to show for every video. So in this one, we're only looking at CFO versus AL and KT versus Top Esports. I'm gonna be honest, I'm pretty happy these were the draws. I don't mind KT going 3-0, but I wanted them to earn it by actually beating a real team. They definitely had the easiest road here, and I think Top Esports should be the best team in the 2-0 group. On that note, I have Top Esports stomping KT. I'm predicting a 2-0. Top Esports have looked like their best selves so far, navigating early games super well and creating good game plans. KT have been losing all of their early games and have to win later, so it feels like a bad matchup to me since I don't think Top Esports will give over their leads so easily. Stylistically, Docdom and Peter feels like a pretty bad matchup into Jackie and Hong, and I think 369 should also destroy Perfect. If BDD wants to have an impact, it'll also have to be later in the game, because while Cream has his issues, lane phase is not one of them. I expect Cream to be able to hold down the fort early, and I expect Kanavi to be better than Cuz. If KT want to win, it will need to be through the team stepping up huge in mid-game teamfights, otherwise it's pretty cooked. CFO AL could actually be more interesting, I think. I have AL winning 2-1, but I respect CFO enough to give them a game. CFO are playing much cleaner than they did domestically this split, and I expect these games to be incredibly bloody since both teams love to teamfight to the death. Both teams are also pretty good at it, so one game going to CFO because they won all the early fights seems reasonable. Overall though, I still think AL have better objective setups, so I'm going to give the edge to them. That's all I have for you for this one. I recently started a Patreon for people who want to support me more while I'm making these videos. I have 3 tiers, each with varying amounts of benefits including different types of behind the scenes content, and even a custom Poro drawing that I'll display in video outros. If that interests you, check out the Patreon link in the description. I'll see you all for the next one. Bye!